Pro football today on SportsGrid. A Sunday in the NFL. It is week number 2. That is Joe Lisi, of course. Kevin Walsh with you guys up until kickoff, where In-Game Live will have you covered throughout today's NFL slate, Joe, which features a number of big games. None bigger, though, than a Super Bowl rematch in Kansas City.
Oh, that game at 4 o'clock doesn't get better than that. Philadelphia right now, a 1.5-point road favorite against Kansas City and Pat Mahomes. Week number 2 provides the overreaction. We see the lines from week number 1, teams that dominated, teams that didn't step up. But we also see the biggest progression come from week 1 to week 2, and there could be some dogs barking a little bit later today.
It is absolutely possible. But if a dog barks in the game between the Eagles and the Chiefs, despite it being in KC, that means the Chiefs win that game. Patrick Mahomes, for the second time in his career, a home underdog. It's a rarity. And I think a lot of people have seen that and said, that's why I must bet on Mahomes. The caveat is the other time he was a home underdog was at home to Buffalo in the regular season, and he lost that game as well. On the Philly side of it, it feels like it's been ages since we've seen this team play. The Thursday night opener against the Dallas Cowboys, and there were so many questions around Philly coming out of that game, Joe, from would Jalen Carter play? Will A.J. Brown bounce back? Will Jalen Hurts continue to impressed the way he did a lot of people, including yourself, in week number 1.
Yeah, and also is Adoree Jackson going to get burned and toasted in this game? When you look at this game as a whole, there's a number of different storylines because we talk about the game on Thursday night with Green Bay winning, right? So now the overreaction is Green Bay's the team to beat in the NFC. They're 2-0. The defense has stepped up, and we sort of forgot about the defending Super Bowl champs, the Philadelphia Eagles, that have a marquee matchup today in Arrowhead. And on the flip side, we talked about last week where L.A. goes into Brazil, they get the victory, and now Kansas City is staring the Philadelphia Eagles in the face, and it's like, Kansas City can't start 0-2. But a bigger storyline is psychologically, if Philly wins this game, like I've said time and time again, they have the opportunity to knock out Kansas City from the dominance that they have had just walking out onto the field and saying, we're going to win the AFC.
I would also say, though, if Philly does win, there is a very real chance that on Tuesday you do not see the Kansas City Chiefs as AFC West favorites. You actually may see that just by the end of that game. Denver today is favored to go 2-0, albeit slight, and you're guaranteed to get 2-0 either out of the Vegas Raiders or the Chargers, who would be the most dangerous team to jump KC with the victory already and being positioned as actually the biggest favorites of any of those teams out of that division. We'll keep it out west, but switch conferences. There are a lot of questions around the San Francisco 49ers today, a team with Super Bowl aspirations, a team, Joe, that you know I'm high on entering the season, played NFC outright futures on them. Well, they'll go today without George Kittle. Okay, that was expected. Juwan Jennings is in. Oh, all right, let's get excited about it, right? But the biggest news is they will be without Brock Purdy. Mac Jones gets the start for the 49ers, but on the road against the New Orleans Saints, seemingly one of the few spots where you would actually see the Niners booked as road favorites. We're still, though, waiting on whether or not Trent Williams, superstar left tackle, will play for the Niners in this one.
There's a lot of question marks, and we had question marks about San Francisco at the start of the year. Would this group, be cohesive as a unit with Christian McCaffrey coming back with the tendonitis of both Achilles, with George Kittle being banged up, with Brandon Ayuk still not in that lineup, and then knowing that Brock Purdy, if he did go down, could the offense maintain that continuity? Mac Jones gets the start. Now, he played well from a statistical standpoint for Jacksonville down the stretch with weapons, but that's the critical aspect of this breakdown. Are there weapons legitimately in the San Francisco offense? They only rushed for 3.3 yards per carry last week. Christian McCaffrey held under 100 yards. He had more of an impact in the short to intermediate passing game. Ricky Pearsall is the one go-to guy. Can that continue on the road against New Orleans? Because New Orleans didn't play all that bad against Kyler Murray and Arizona from a defensive perspective. They could be in this game today.
We have some Sunday night action that will highlight a national championship game. Michigan's J.J. McCarthy hosting Washington's Michael Penix. But I still haven't forgotten about last Sunday night, the incredible game between the Ravens and the Bills, a 41-40 final, which saw Buffalo take over as Super Bowl favorites, saw Josh Allen take over as a league MVP favorite. Those two teams now, Joe, are in spots this week where they're supposed to win comfortably. A near 7-point line for the Bills on the road, though it's come down closer to, more flat 6 now than no 7s are actually still left in the market. The Ravens, the biggest favorite we've seen so far this season, over double digits at home against the Browns. We'll see what Lamar Jackson and company can deliver in this spot.
Yeah, so they dominate for basically almost like 52 minutes, 55 minutes of that matchup last week, and Josh Allen pulls it out. Dramatic fashion, 41-40, and it's like, okay, they'll just go out against Cleveland today and just cover the number and just everything's great. They're a dominant home team, and they don't have to worry. Cleveland, when you look at this matchup, held Joe Burrow to 113 passing yards. From a defensive perspective, we have to see how this Baltimore Ravens offense performs psychologically. Are they going to come out flat? For the Buffalo Bills, though, they are the offense that I think is going to continue straight through the regular season. Josh Allen, to me, showcased that last week. We saw Dalton Kincaid get involved. We saw James Cook. Now he's a little bit banged up. He should be a go today. I just think Josh Allen elevates this offense, and what they put around him this year, they're playing as well as anybody heading into week 2, and I think it continues today from an offensive perspective against the Jets.
I'll tell you this, though. Buffalo's status as new Super Bowl favorites is, one, actually somewhat short-lived because they've immediately, bought the Ravens' numbers back. But also, any minute now, the Green Bay parade likely starts. On Thursday night, we saw the Packers handle business against the Washington Commanders. Both sides of the football. Jordan Love had over 200 passing yards in the first half of that game. Statistically, you could argue that was the worst performance of Jaden Daniels' career. I'll ask you this, Joe, as we put Thursday in the rear view. Did you come away more impressed by Green Bay or concerned with Washington?
I think a little more concerned with Washington. Again, we've seen now Jordan Love elevate his play in back-to-back weeks with the passing attack. That, I told you when we looked at Green Bay big picture, I wanted to see less of Josh Jacobs in the offense, more offensive balance. That's what they've done through 2 weeks, and Micah Parsons has been an added benefit to that front seven. You saw Rashawn Gary and Parsons pressure Jaden Daniels in a big way, and we haven't seen Jaden Daniels contain like that all of last year, right? Yeah. You saw it in that matchup, but without a legitimate rushing attack now. And I'm not for Washington. I'm talking, Chris Rodriguez is there now, Austin Eckler. Merit, right? Good, not elite. I'm concerned about Washington. I am. I'm more concerned about Washington because, again, they don't have a Saquon. They don't have a Derrick Henry. So Jaden Daniels can't be expected week in and week out to rush for 80 yards and throw it for 250 each and every week. It's just not going to happen. That's why I thought there would be a little regression this year.
Why I agree with you is you see the fallout from that game, and there's worry around Cliff Kingsbury's play calling, and Cliff is a weird one where, like, last year was obviously overwhelmingly positive, but there were even moments where, like, has he lost the plot? And I don't know if we'll ever fully trust Cliff Kingsbury. Some questions around Washington. Packers, though, look great to start. It's a Super Bowl rematch. We break it down on SportsGrid next.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Donnie, the season is 6 months, 5 if you check out in September. You're going to have a bad month. The Yankees had a horrible month, that is true. But beyond that, their regular season looks okay. They're going to win their 90 games or maybe a little bit more and get to the postseason. What is everybody freaking out about?
Everybody freaks out. It's a Yankee tax and a Yankee fan tax as well, where every single season you enter into the equation going like, it's championship or bust.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Remember these names: AZ Fudd, Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts. Depending on who wins that lottery, that's going to depend on who goes one. If Washington wins, it's Fudd. She's from the area. If Dallas wins, they're going to bring Fudd to play with, obviously, Paige. If Minnesota wins, I think they go Miles with the point. If Seattle wins, they go with Miles, and the same thing with Chicago.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I was looking at it through my phone at first. I'm like, why is there such a delay? And why are we getting pitch hitters right away? Oh, the pitcher got thrown out for some reason. Maybe he hurt himself. But no, turning out and seeing a brawl was absolutely hilarious to let that one play out. Just the way it is sometimes in baseball. We don't get a lot of good fights and a lot of good brawls and anger, specifically from two teams that aren't going to the playoffs. So good on them for showing that moxie last time. But it's good to see a little bit of a brawl and a little bit of that passion here.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
A Super Bowl rematch in Week 2 was always going to be big time, especially when you think about how the Super Bowl played out. The Chiefs were knocking on the door of the first ever Super Bowl three-peat. The Eagles didn't just slam that door. They ripped it off its hinges and then banged the Chiefs over the head with it for 3 straight quarters until they pulled out their starters and Mahomes was lighting up their backups as Sirianni was covered in Gatorade because the Eagles destroyed the Chiefs in that game. So there were going to be revenge angles and all of these questions no matter what. It amplifies, though, because while the Eagles in that victory showed some flaws that I think existed throughout the season of last year's Chiefs team, those are now maybe creeping into this year's Chiefs team. They're 0-1. They've been 0-1 before. But a loss here today would make them 0-2. That's never happened in the Patrick Mahomes era. And Mahomes doesn't go at it today with a full complement of players. Rashee Rice still suspended. Xavier Worthy, a total long shot to play in this football game. And in come a well-rested Philadelphia Eagles. KC was in Brazil on a Friday. You would think, oh, surely they at least have a rest advantage. They don't, because the Eagles played on Thursday night. It feels like the deck is stacked against the Chiefs, and that's how you end up with the Eagles as road favorites in Arrowhead.
Yeah, a tiger doesn't change his spots. Is that what they say? In respect to that, I think this is a bad matchup for Kansas City. They got exposed in the Super Bowl in the interior. Offense and defensive lines got pushed around by the Philadelphia Eagles, and nothing's changed basically 6 months later. That's the bottom line. And I understand that Philly came out potentially a little flat against the NFC East opponent in Dak Prescott, and he was able to have success with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens over the top, and Adoree Jackson got burned. But with no Xavier Worthy in this lineup, to take away the double teams from Marquise Hollywood Brown, I think Philly's going to double team Brown. I think they're going to get after Pat Mahomes, and I think Jalen Hurts continues the success that he had in the Super Bowl and dominates that secondary over the top. Justin Herbert had a great performance. We saw Quentin Johnson break out. We saw Justin Herbert, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Granted, the rushing attack was a little inconsistent for L.A., maybe in the second half after they made some adjustments. But, again, I don't think Saquon breaks out for 150 today, but he definitely has a better performance than he did in the Super Bowl. But I think it's all Jalen Hurts. I think it's all Philly. And again, I am not sold on the offensive identity now of Kansas City. They rushed for 5.8 yards per carry. A majority of that was Pat Mahomes rushing and scrambling for his life. Not going to happen today.
This is a spot, Joe, that I expected to fully be on when they announced the schedule back in May. I really couldn't believe that the Chiefs were going to come back from Brazil at a rest deficit. I know it's a day. I know people may think that doesn't matter, but I think coming back from Brazil can be tricky. I really do. It's an unknown thing to open your season in an international game, right? Only last year's Eagles and Packers have had that experience, right? The Chargers get the benefit of not having to play until Monday, right? So just when you compare those things. But I don't think I can reasonably bet Philly as a favorite in Arrowhead because I still have some respect for the concept of home field advantage. I'm not saying I like Kansas City. I don't like Kansas City, Joe. But at the end of the day, when we're figuring out what are our favorite sides, where do we have advantages, where are we certain, I end up backtracking a little bit because football is, listen, it's talent, it's X and O's, but there's also a lot of emotion, right? And we lay out what's on the line for the Chiefs. This feels like a playoff game. I mean, it feels like a playoff game.
It is for Kansas City. Well, every game in the NFL is a step-up spot. We know that.
Yeah.
But as much of it being a playoff and a revenge factor for Kansas City, this is an opportunity to Philly to really flex their muscle and say,
I agree.
You don't think Philly wears it and Jalen Hurts and this team have a chip on them? They're one of the most dominant team in the NFL. They bring back everybody, basically. And now we're talking about Micah Parsons and we're talking about Green Bay as being the team to beat because they beat a Washington team that got pasted in the NFC Championship by Philadelphia. What's changed? Not only that, and I understand home field advantage, but I think we're discounting everything. They got beat up in the Super Bowl. 2 years ago, Philly went in there on a rain-soaked Monday night and won that game 21-17. They just match up well, and they've gotten better. And tell me what's going to change for the offensive defensive lines for Kansas City. Nothing.
So I think that becomes one of the most fascinating elements of this game is trying to evaluate Philly's defense. So, again, Adoree Jackson is now the most famous, not all that great cornerback in football because it's a Thursday night, everybody's watching, and people are trying to poke holes in the Eagles, understandably so. So people go, Adoree Jackson. But one of the struggles for Philly in the game against Dallas is they were not able to get home and fully, start sacking Dak Prescott. I've heard a lot of people talking about the Eagles' defensive struggles and then gloss over the fact that their best defensive player didn't play in the football game in Jalen Carter.
Right.
And that matters. And Jalen Carter will play in this football game. And listen, I think Micah Parsons is certainly better than Jalen Carter, but it is the addition of Parsons makes literally every other Packer defender better at their job. The addition of Jalen Carter, you will get better performance out of not just Nolan Smith and Quinyon Mitchell, but also Adoree Jackson, because now the quarterback won't have as much time. I think it is one of I mean this so sincerely. It is a bit nerdy. It's not true fandom to the core. I love that Kansas City is 0-1 entering into this game. I think it makes it trickier on the Eagles. I think it's worth it because the fallout if they lose, what's on the line here. If these two teams were 1-0, it's a Super Bowl rematch, and hey, maybe we'll see you down the line. It feels like the Chiefs' not season is on the line,
right?
But there's a lot more than usually they play for in week 2.
It's the end of the dynasty, I'll say. I'll say it right now. Like, this game, from a psychological perspective, and I keep saying this, if they lose by double digits, they get smashed.
Yeah, we'll get more into this game, see what is out there in the props market. We're going to take a quick break, be right back with you on Pro Football Today. Again, Chiefs, Eagles in Arrowhead. It's a 1.5-point number. Jalen Hurts is favored against Patrick Mahomes in his stadium. Hurts was fantastic in week number 1. What does he have in store for week 2? We'll tell you next.
The sharpest football contest show in the land. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
It was nice to see that even though they couldn't follow the same blueprint as last season or just the way that everyone thought their offense was going to run this year, Josh Jacobs struggled and Jordan Love stepped up. And if you're a Packer fan, that's what you were hoping to see, is that in the moments where you can't rely on the run, can the quarterback that you invested a lot of money into, now draft capital, putting weapons around him, rise to the occasion, and he did.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
When the game is on the line and provide the kill shot to knock out an opponent. It's like they're afraid to put the Buffalo Bills away. The safer call was giving it to Derrick Henry and giving it to Lamar Jackson on the ground, as opposed to putting it in your MVP's hands and allowing him to make plays in the passing attack. I just don't understand it.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
They trade Marina Mabry, then they turn around, and then obviously they fire Teresa Weatherspoon, and it's been a hot mess. You go and, draft Cardozo and Reese, basically 2 of the same player, meaning bigs that can't step out and shoot. So it's a little bit of a clown show when you talk about the Chicago Sky.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Back to right here on SportsGrid, we are breaking down the Super Bowl rematch. And I think I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I just lack the certainty I think you're carrying into the game, which I totally understand. There is one thing that you said that I think I disagree with about, I don't think Saquon's going to have 150 yards. I think Saquon might have 150 yards. I think it's
possible.
Here is my, so this is a spot. Right, it's spot, sides, totals, but a prop spot. Saquon Barkley last season, in the regular season, or it happened in the Super Bowl, but they didn't have a next game, okay, was held under 70 yards 3 times. He averaged 157.3 rushing yards per game in the next game. That's what happened to him in week number 1 against Dallas. Pair that with the fact that Kansas City held him under 60 yards, 25 carries, not efficient at all in the football game. And I think it is going to be very difficult to just shut down Saquon that easily. And I add this to the equation. Steve Spagnuolo went into a Super Bowl saying, I will stop Saquon at any and all costs. Unfortunately, at no point in that game did he realize they weren't going to give him a Super Bowl trophy just if he held Saquon under his rushing prop. The Eagles diced up that Chiefs defense. A Chiefs defense that was diced up in week number 1. I'm not saying they're not going to put a lot of attention on Saquon. Every defense does. I don't think that they have now spent the entire week solely game planning for 26. His rushing props at 87.5. I think he has a monster game here in a primetime spot.
It's 11 yards discounted from the week 1 game against Dallas, right? So there you go. So you're getting a discount, and I agree he'll be utilized. When I look at this game from a props perspective, I just think it's all Jalen Hurts. Again, we talk about just styles and how this team matches up, and I think they're going to go in there and smack them around. I really do. I think Philly, and I've said it, most complete team, and I think Philly matches up where they can dominate the Chiefs. I think if they played this game out, we always talk about, I know you love talking about the NBA and just, isolation and matchups. Philly, to me, if they played 100 times, Philly is winning that game. I think now 90 out of the 100. I just honestly believe that. I think the first time they met in the Super Bowl was a different story. I don't think Philly was as mature, and obviously the defense didn't come around from what we saw now. I just think that front seven, Jalen is in there. He's going to force double teams. You're going to see those edges just crash on Pat Mahomes. And again, the offensive line, you want to run it, you want to throw it. But I think this is a statement game as well where Hurts wants to go in and say, I'm tired of hearing about Mahomes. I'm an elite quarterback. We're gonna attack a 40 spot on the Kansas City Chiefs today.
It's a big game for Jalen Hurts' MVP narratives. A win here on the road, if he plays as well as he did in week number 1, will go a long way. Could likely see him jump into that top 3, I would imagine. There is a guy, though, from a prop perspective, we have to spotlight, Joe. A.J. Brown. The thing with A.J. Brown is he did this to himself, okay? There is no, oh, come on, why is everybody making a big deal that A.J. Brown had just 1 catch and 1 target? They won. He's about winning. I'm not saying A.J. Brown isn't about winning, but A.J. Brown is also about getting his and dominating. It is why during last year's massive win streak, after A.J. Brown had a poor and an ineffective game against Carolina, you can blame it on Hurts or whatever, he was obviously livid. It was a storyline that followed Philadelphia, and it's obviously not going to go away when A.J. Brown has 1 target, and it was 0, Joe, until the final 2.5 minutes of the football game. 73.5 is his number. Touchdowns at a plus price. What do you expect from A.J. Brown here?
Big performance, bounce back. Again, I would go with the receptions and maybe the touchdown yards. They might spread it around. Let's not forget Jahan Dotson had a big day against the Kansas City Chiefs. He stepped up with 50. What do you have, 59?
Good against Dallas,
in the win against Dallas. That's what I'm saying. So, again, I still think he hits paid there today.
Yeah.
AJ, whenever he gets 1 reception for 11 yards, it's probably, $120 and 2 touchdowns today?
It just hit me, though, too, breaking this down, is one of your literally favorite guys to bet is out for this football game in Dallas Goedert.
I know.
That just hit me. I'm like, what's missing from the breakdown?
Well, I could go with Saquon in the receiving game again.
There's a zag.
But I think today,
that was your Super Bowl best bet, right? Saquon in the receiving game?
25, and we took it up to 4. I forget. I was 25 altered, and then we took it. We got all the numbers.
Yeah.
But
that's good.
Jalen, 2+ touchdowns, maybe even 3 today. I think it's a double-digit win.
Can't wait to get into that. We talk, though, about a more than budding rivalry in the NFC North after a quick break on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
It was nice to see that even though they couldn't follow the same blueprint as last season or just the way that everyone thought their offense was going to run this year, Josh Jacobs struggled and Jordan Love stepped up. And if you're a Packer fan, that's what you were hoping to see, is that in the moments where you can't rely on the run, can the quarterback that you invested a lot of money into, now draft capital, putting weapons around him, rise to the occasion, and he did.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
When the game is on the line and provide the kill shot to knock out an opponent. It's like they're afraid to put the Buffalo Bills away. The safer call was giving it to Derrick Henry and giving it to Lamar Jackson on the ground, as opposed to putting it in your MVP's hands and allowing him to make plays in the passing attack. I just don't understand it.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
They trade Marina Mabry, then they turn around, and then obviously they fire Teresa Weatherspoon, and it's been a hot mess. You go and, draft Cardozo and Reese, basically 2 of the same player, meaning bigs that can't step out and shoot. So it's a little bit of a clown show when you talk about the Chicago Sky.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
We're starting to get some in and outs for week number 2 on a Sunday. Jair Alexander, the Baltimore Ravens quarterback, is out for this football game. There are a few others that are going to start to trickle in here. I think Trent Williams is the big one that we are waiting on. But we did get some relevant news for the game that we're about to break down. The Detroit Lions today had questionable tags on their left tackle, Taylor Decker, and their star safety, one of their star safeties, Kirby Joseph. Both are active for today's game against the Chicago Bears. Maybe that'll push this line up to 7 because, again, you can laugh at me all you want, but I've been waiting all week, wondering if this thing can run up to 7 here, Joe. The story of this game to me is this is the panic bowl. This is the sledgehammer, smash the alarm if we lose spot. Because I'm serious. If you're Chicago and you lose, you start not just 0-2, but 0-2 in the division. It's going to be hard to climb out of that hole, not just to win the North, but to even make the playoffs. And people will say, but they have the longest odds in terms of the division. They weren't supposed to make the playoffs. Yeah, tell that to Bears fans. Tell that to the Bears organization. This is a team that was actually supposed to make the playoffs in the first year of Caleb Williams. Trust me, they thought they'd be able to make the playoffs here in year number 2. But that pales in comparison if Detroit loses this game. If the Detroit Lions, whose loss, by the way, to Green Bay, presented a ton of panic, but then the Packers looked good on Thursday, so people were like, Detroit's fine. It's not nothing you can do against Green Bay. No one will score on them all season. If Detroit loses this game, they'll probably have the worst odds to win the NFC North at the end of this game. Remember, this was last year's number 1 seed in the conference. I think it's the Panic Bowl, Joe. What do you make of it?
It is the Panic Bowl because to clarify, magnify it more, if Ben Johnson loses this game, is the savior of the you want to call out every coach in the NFC North in the preseason, that's all well and good. And if Caleb Williams struggles again like he did in the second half, there's going to be the concerns of, is he the right quarterback for the future? Yeah. And we saw the situation with Bryce Young, saw the situation play out with Anthony Richardson, and to know that he struggled mightily. He starts 10 for 10 last week and then can't hit it open. DJ Moore looked like a deer in the headlights running around. That's a problem. That's a problem. So, yes, I agree with you. If Detroit, and we talked about regression. I didn't think they'd be a 14-win football team. Thought they would be potentially a 10-win football team, which is still, in my opinion, good enough to win the division, just not being this dominant team and they weren't a dominant team, let's be honest. Dominant in the record. 14-3 last year. I get it.
Detroit?
But wait.
Okay.
When you lose as a 9.5-point favorite at home to Jaden Daniels and Washington, a rookie quarterback, in that spot in your house, and you get abused. They gave up 40-plus points, okay? They got exposed in that game.
Right.
So the perception is you're a 14-win football team. The NFC North lost all their playoff games, right?
Yeah.
They weren't as good as we thought they were. The perception was wrong, and they got exposed. So heading into this year with a new OC, a new DC, and all these question marks, how can you look at this team as an NFC contender?
So it's interesting. I think they were, certainly in the regular season, I mean, they were really, really good.
Yes, and they covered lines.
But that's what made the loss to the Commanders so bad. The reality is, Joe, really good teams get eliminated in the playoffs early sometimes, and that's what happened. But it makes it worse, right? Where, again, like the Vikings maybe were a bit of a glass house because every time they got into a big game, they lost that big game, right? But what I agree with you in is that loss, it came with questions, I think specifically around their quarterback. And I don't want to do the same thing again, so I won't. But if you've heard me do it before, you know what I'm saying but not saying, okay? Jared Goff is someone that, if you're honest with yourself, you're not sure of, and now has lost multiple offensive linemen and a star offensive coordinator. So Ben Johnson, the head coach, Jerry's still out. The offensive coordinator, A+. There's no arguing that. He's an obvious A-plus offensive coordinator. We know that happens with defensive guys, right? Where a defensive coordinator, they're brilliant, maybe like a Robert Saleh, head coach, more questions. So these questions are out there for the Lions in abundance. I look at this football game, and the only thing that stops me from absolutely running to bet the Bears is first of all, it's a shorter week, right? I know it's a day, but all that stuff does matter to me a little bit. The other is, as much as there's Lions panic, the Chicago stuff was devastating. Like, the Lions got in. I think I'd rather enter a week, Joe, off of being embarrassed than devastated. The Bears were devastated against Minnesota, so that's why I'm backing off. I played something in this game. You should laugh at me for what I'm about to say.
Go ahead.
But I played a Jahmyr Gibbs anytime touchdown paired with the Bears plus 14.5. Because they work against each other, you get like plus 115 on something like that. Gibbs last year was not kept out of the end zone in consecutive games at any point. Didn't score in week 1. I think his usage will still be there well enough against the Bears. But I think Chicago is, funny enough, as much as I do think they're live in this game against the Lions. I do.
Oh, absolutely. But then I'll push back because it's the whole Ben Johnson knows that offense and defense better than anybody, right? Yeah. So you would think from just a breakdown perspective, they have I don't want to say the coaching edge, but the staff edge because Ben Johnson knows the tendencies. Right, if anybody could exploit it, it would be Ben Johnson with his offensive play calling, knowing that scout team and going up against the defense every week. So why is this spread then 6.5 after that disappointing road performance where they only pounded the rock, Detroit, for 2.1 yards per carry? I would expect this more to be like 4.5.
It started there, but it's been bet up.
I understand, but here we are, and like we're sitting at 6.5, and money's pushed it. Who do we believe it now? If I ask you who's the better quarterback in this matchup, you're going to tell me Caleb.
Inevitably, it'll be today. Though it might be Goff. No. But today it might be Goff.
See that? And here's where I'll push back. You're right about Jared Goff. I don't think Jared Goff is an elite quarterback. Okay, but I think he's a very good quarterback in the sense of when the rushing attack is going. But I'll put it this way: from an accuracy perspective, when he's on. I mean, he'll give you 4 incompletions a game. I mean, 22 of 26. He'll go 30 of 35. When that rushing attack is pounding and they're getting 4.5 yards per carry and they're in manageable third down situations, he'll slice and dice you. Mm-hmm. It's when the rushing attack isn't there and they're in second and long and third and 13, and then all of a sudden they become predictable.
So Jared Goff, similar to how the Lions were last season, when they had a team's number, they had a team's number, right. But the thing was, they just kept going, right? There was the game he threw. Who was it against? They were destroying, and he threw for like 400 yards.
Was it Minnesota or the Rams?
It was like late in the game, and he was just still chucking for some reason. I don't remember necessarily who it was. Against Jacksonville. Okay. They won 52-6. He's in the fourth quarter throwing. Right. They get to 400 yards, right? Yes, Goff is if it's all great, it's great kind of thing, right? And that's where, this game, I think striking first is going to matter so much with this. Props-wise, though, I just want to say, with the Bears,
right?
I think they're one of the toughest teams in football. We know DeAndre Swift is the running back. He's not very good at football. Wide receiver room, I mean, I don't know if Romadunze or DJ Moore are the number one. Zacchaeus is still getting used. We're waiting on Luther Burden. They have 2 notable tight ends in Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland. I mean, it's outside of betting on some Caleb Williams, the Bears' props are very messy.
Very, very. And again, you might even like to take Swift in the receiving game. They utilize him with checkdowns, especially if you're not buying into Caleb. I do like Jamison Williams today. Okay. 2 receptions, 23 yards last week. Underutilized. It was Laporta in the offense. 46.5, 48 in that area. He could break out for 70+. I like Detroit, but I like Jamison Williams today.
To be fair, as much as I said this is the Panic Bowl, that's maybe because I think these teams have a little bit of life in them. The loser of Pat's Dolphins is done. That's next on SportsGrid.
the sharpest football contest show in the land. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
It was nice to see that even though they couldn't follow the same blueprint as last season, or just the way that everyone thought their offense was going to run this year, Josh Jacobs struggled and Jordan Love stepped up. And if you're a Packer fan, that's what you were hoping to see, is that in the moments where you can't rely on the run, can the quarterback that you invested a lot of money into, now draft capital, putting weapons around him, rise to the occasion, and he did.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
When the game is on the line and provide the kill shot to knock out an opponent. It's like they're afraid to put the Buffalo Bills away. The safer call was giving it to Derrick Henry and giving it to Lamar Jackson on the ground, as opposed to putting it in your MVP's hands and allowing him to make plays in the passing attack. I just don't understand it.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
They trade Marina Mabry, then they turn around, and then obviously they fire Teresa Weatherspoon, and it's been a hot mess. You go and, draft Cardozo and Reese, basically two of the same player, meaning bigs that can't step out and shoot. So it's a little bit of a clown show when you talk about the Chicago Sky.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Back with you right here on SportsGrid. Joe Lisi, Kevin Walsh. Still a lot of good stuff to come. We're going to get you our Sunday morning crunch in about 10 minutes' time here. Our favorite player props here on this Sunday. We're going to talk to the Pro Football Doc, Dr. David Chow. Plenty of injury news heading into this Sunday slate, as well as NFL insider Adam Kaplan. But we focus in right now on the New England Patriots and the Miami Dolphins, a game that you may argue, oh, come on, this isn't the biggest game on the slate. Yeah, but the result of this game is going to matter a lot, because the New England Patriots were a popular playoff pick. I know some people who put the Pats in their playoff picture. Me. I don't think you did. Yeah, I was in on New England, Joe. I know. I was in on New England this year. And to start 0-2 with your games against the Raiders and the Dolphins, that's not great. But it's not as bad as it would be for Miami to start 0-2 at the Colchin home against the New England Patriots. And it feels like with every loss, with every interception, with every interview, Tyreek Hill is one step closer to being traded. I'll go a step further, though. Something that Lisi has been on forever before it was the consensus opinion of Mike McDaniel being the first head coach fired. If the Dolphins lose today against the Patriots, they play Thursday against the Bills. If they lose that game, McDaniel will be fired 3 weeks into the season. That's what I believe.
It's probably going to happen. They had a players-only meeting after 1 week. I mean, really? I mean, you have to get up and play. Usually that happens by, like, week 7. Hey, guys, we got off to a slow start. Can we rally the troops? They're throwing life raft.
What do you think they were
Remember
saying
that?
There?
I have no idea.
Like, do you think Tyreek Hill was talking, or he was like, let me be quiet?
Well, I don't know if you saw
traded?
the reporter call out Tyreek, and he's like, the speed is there, but why haven't you had a reception
Tyreek's
over?
Just crying, laughing.
And he's like, yeah, what are you trying to do to me, right?
Yeah.
We know that Mike McDaniel was an offensive mind. I get that. But he's not a good in-game manager or an X's and O's guy, and I'll keep saying this.
Yeah.
He is a good and a great head coach when the game plan works right from the get-go. When they have a mismatch problem and they, play Carolina, they play a team that's under 500, and Tyreek and Jalen Waddle and Jalen Wright when he's in there and Devon Achane are running all over the place and they're up 21-0, Mike McDaniel's great.
Okay.
But when that defense is a legit top 10 unit, a top 15 unit, and they punch you in the face, Mike McDaniel can't coach his way out of a paper bag. He cannot make halftime adjustments. He cannot see the weakness or change up the game plan in-game to find a weakness of the opposing defense and exploit it. And that is the problem. On top of, he's too much of a player's coach that the defense just never plays. They're not a blue-collar group. They're not Philadelphia. They're not Kansas City. They're not even Buffalo or Detroit or some of these other great teams that, hey, when they get punched in the mouth, they hit you back. The Miami Dolphins are a glass house, and it starts with their head coach.
Here is everything you're saying is fair, but here's what I think is different about week 1, Joe, right? They played the Indianapolis Colts in week 1.
Yeah.
Okay? So Mike McDaniel and Tua pulling up short in a playoff game, sure. Week 17, or with the division on the line against, or week 18 with the division on the line against Buffalo, even though they're at home, sure. Okay? Tua Tagovailoa having 114 passing yards in a game they were losing the whole way. 5 yards a completion, multiple interceptions. Them losing the football game by 25, and it probably could have been worse if you told the Colts pedal to the metal. You know, this is college football where the margin is going to make a difference. It is so concerning, but it's also so unbelievable. Like, if you check through the bet slips here, you'll find a couple of Dolphins items. There's a couple, too, at 250 plus.
There's no sense of urgency with this team.
Do you like New England today? Because you're not really in on this Patriots team either.
I like the total just because of we saw
Over
Gino,
the number?
Yeah, 43.5. I mean, we saw Gino throw for 362 on that secondary. As bad as Miami is, you got to feel there's overcompensation to get the football to Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, and they're going to try and score points at all costs, which is what you would hope that they would do each and every week. Mm-hmm. I think the problem is that if I'm looking at this game right now, if I had to bet it, and I'm not going to, I probably would bet Miami because they're at home here.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's part of the reason the number's moving a little.
And Vrabel, but I don't love it. I like the over more. Again, I have problems with both coaches.
Yeah.
The problem that I have with the Vrabel aspect is that we elevate and we think he's an elite head coach that won a Super Bowl when he's not. He's a very good head coach. But again, had offensive weapons, got away from Derrick Henry his last year in Tennessee. It looked like Derrick Henry was washed up when he had Mike Vrabel as head coach. And here he is rejuvenated. And I understand he's got Lamar. I get that. But Mike Vrabel, come on. I mean, he regressed ever since they had the number 1 seed and lost to Joe Burrow. Every year was a slight regression when he had Tannehill.
I understand that they got a little bit worse as time went on. They had a stretch where they missed Derrick Henry, and they really missed Derrick Henry as well. Vrabel, though, comes with the defensive side, and those Tennessee's defenses I thought were often pretty solid. What I would say is I actually just envision that this is a very close football game, that New England wins late. And I think that, again, continues to tip these scales here against Miami. Just like you, though, I am not betting aside. I am very interested here with, in some of these props. I think that Tyreek Hill is somewhat due for a big game. I think Travion Henderson could be explosive here. I think Drake May could have himself a much better football game. I think it could all stay tight, but I want to just attempt to at least drive this point home more. Is every Dolphins loss means Tyreek Hill is closer to getting traded. And if you're in the Super Bowl market, if you're in the futures market, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill is heavily connected to the Kansas City Chiefs. I am sure it would be Tyreek's first place if he could pick to go back to. At least I would think it would be. And the Chiefs have a need, and the Chiefs are interested, and they're not worried about any of his other question marks because that's who they are, and that's how they kind of build their rosters to some degree. But I think the added piece on top of that is if you are the Chargers, the Bills, the Ravens, you can't just let Tyreek Hill waltz there. Miami might matter to just themselves, but at minimum, they matter to the rest of this conference. We'll talk some player props on a Sunday morning after the break.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
It was nice to see that even though they couldn't follow the same blueprint as last season or just the way that everyone thought their offense was going to run this year, Josh Jacobs struggled and Jordan Love stepped up. And if you're a Packer fan, that's what you were hoping to see, is that in the moments where you can't rely on the run, can the quarterback that you invested a lot of money into, now draft capital, putting weapons around him, rise to the occasion, and he did.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
When the game is on the line and provide the kill shot to knock out an opponent. It's like they're afraid to put the Buffalo Bills away. The safer call was giving it to Derrick Henry and giving it to Lamar Jackson on the ground, as opposed to putting it in your MVP's hands and allowing him to make plays in the passing attack. I just don't understand it.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
They trade Marina Mabry, then they turn around, and then obviously they fire Teresa Weatherspoon, and it's been a hot mess. You go and, draft Cardozo and Reese, basically two of the same player, meaning bigs that can't step out and shoot. So it's a little bit of a clown show when you talk about the Chicago Sky.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Back at the right here on SportsGrid, some of the in and outs are starting to become official. The big news that I was waiting to see was whether or not Trent Williams would be a go for the San Francisco 49ers, and he is. So that line's going to settle in at a 3. I think if Trent Williams missed that game, that goes down to 2.5s, if not more. I think Trent Williams matters that much. We'll talk a little bit more about that game in just a bit. But let's talk some crunch here, Joe. And let's start off with a couple of running back looks that you are going to put forward here on this Sunday morning.
The first one takes place in MetLife. We see Bills 6.5-point road favorites over the Jets. The Jets ran the football effectively. Yeah. They put up 32 points. A majority of that was with Breece Hall. We did see Braylon Allen rushed the football, 6 carries, 9 yards, and a touchdown. I think he has a bigger role today, especially because he's a bigger back. We saw Derrick Henry wear down that Bills front seven. Braylon Allen over 17.5, I think is light. Took him up to 25+. Last time he played the Bills, 6 carries, 26 yards. I think he could break out today. The other one, Kev, is Tyrone Tracy. Now, didn't get a lot of touches last week. He was, sort of limited against Washington. Football. He's got 53.5. I'm still not sold on the front seven. He could have a 70 or an 80-yard performance. Give me Tyrone Tracy over his number.
I think both backs are really interesting. Braylon Allen was the receiver of a lot of offseason hype. How much could he cut into the Breece Hall workload? Breece Hall was somebody who featured in my crunch last week. I think around 65.5 for a rush receiving. That number has had 20-plus yards tacked onto it there, a rightful adjustment from the book. The youth movement begins, because it feels like Jackson Dart is knocking on that door, Joe, and it feels like Cam Scadaboo is going to continue to knock on the door. Tyrone Tracy's only a sophomore, but I think they like Scadaboo a lot in New York.
They do, but again, thunder and lightning. Tyrone Tracy is the home run hitter. We've seen it throughout a number of different teams where they utilize multiple backs.
number. 82.5 to me is still going to be light. I then go to Xavier Legette, 30 plus at minus 104. Xavier Legette was one of 59 players in week 1 to be targeted 7 or more times. He was only one of 5 to not have 30 or more. I think the workload is there. And what could be a higher scoring game against Arizona, those are the wide receivers that I'm looking at.
Legette needs to keep those feet in bounds. Field awareness. He should have had a catch that clearly in bounds, and he couldn't get 2 feet in. I looked at Trevor Lawrence as well. Trevor Lawrence, I know $178 in the dominating home win over Carolina, going on the road against Cincinnati. I know they want to utilize the rushing attack with Travis Etienne and Tootin, but Trevor Lawrence at 245.5 is going to have to get there to cover the 3.5, especially with Burrow throwing for 113. Bing could be bombs away in Cincinnati. 49.5 is the total. Give me over Trevor Lawrence tonight.
I think this is such a fun game. I'm interested, Travis Hunter, in what week number 2 looks like for him. They're saying we're going to get more defensive work out of Travis Hunter. Does that then pull away from the offensive workload? I think that certainly becomes something to watch. You also have this Cincinnati offense that did not deliver the goods in week number 1, but still won the game. That was not really how you saw things play out last season. Here's one other thing you can laugh at me. I've been waiting all week for this line to drop. It went from 3.5 to flat 3 for like 25 minutes.
You're taking Bengals?
I like Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I can't let it goes back down to flat 3. I saw it's like they rubbed it in front of my face. I gotta wait. I want the best of the number. Can I get a flat 3?
They're gonna win what? 23, 20, 43, 40. Is that what you're hoping?
Listen, I want to be smart. Want to be sharp. Top of the market. Let's spotlight a couple of quarterbacks here, including some MVPs next.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
It was nice to see that even though they couldn't follow the same blueprint as last season, or just the way that everyone thought their offense was going to run this year, Josh Jacobs struggled and Jordan Love stepped up. And if you're a Packer fan, that's what you were hoping to see, is that in the moments where you can't rely on the run, can the quarterback that you invested a lot of money into, now draft capital, putting weapons around him, rise to the occasion, and he did.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
When the game is on the line and provide the kill shot to knock out an opponent. It's like they're afraid to put the Buffalo Bills away. The safer call was giving it to Derrick Henry and giving it to Lamar Jackson on the ground, as opposed to putting it in your MVP's hands and allowing him to make plays in the passing attack. I just don't understand it.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
They trade Marina Mabry, then they turn around, and then obviously they fire Teresa Weatherspoon, and it's been a hot mess. You go and, draft Cardozo and Reese, basically 2 of the same player, meaning bigs that can't step out and shoot. So it's a little bit of a clown show when you talk about the Chicago Sky.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.